So here I wanted to go over the syllabus for Parables of Jesus, which you will find in Blackboard. So just kind of go over some of these details with you. So you'll see my name as well as my office extension. Of course, my office is in the Department of Bible on the west side of the Bible building. You'll also see my office hours that are listed here. And if you need to contact me outside of the office hours, there's, of course, my email address that connects me. But also, you may want to contact me in my virtual office hours. So you see there Thursday 1 to 3, and we can schedule to meet either by Google Meet or by Zoom. So in the syllabus, you'll see the OC mottos and mission statements, worldviews that are supposed to be there, as well as course descriptions. There are no prerequisites for this course, but I do anticipate or expect that most students have some familiarity with the Gospels, particularly what we call the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But there are no courses that are required. I also have a description here of the relevance of the course and why it's important to have an understanding, a more in-depth understanding of Jesus' parables, and how to read those parables and apply those parables. You'll also see the course objectives as well as the assessment tools and how these particular course objectives fit with OC's larger objectives for students. In terms of the required texts, the only thing that you're required to get besides the Bible is Amy Jill Levine's Short Stories by Jesus. So we'll use that source to kind of engage these. This is a Jewish New Testament scholar who teaches at Vanderbilt, and she draws in some unique perspectives about how these parables have oftentimes been used, particularly within the Christian tradition, and what oftentimes Christian readers of these parables by a Jewish teacher may be missing. Now, there's not everything in Levine's work that I would necessarily agree with. I don't have students read books just because the author says everything I agree with, but something that we can talk about and discuss as we're trying to understand these parables. You'll also see the requirements. So, course class attendance. This is a hybrid course. We only are going to meet on the Mondays, and Wednesdays will be a video lecture that you'll be watching. So your Monday attendance is extremely important. You need to have an excused reason why you are not present for these Mondays, since we are in a shortened period. This is a term course, so you'll need to tell me when you're not there. Your attendance grade will be severely affected by not being there, so that's class attendance. Participation is primarily measured by how well you engage in the class, questions that you might ask, being willing to read when I ask people to read. So that's participation. This is a hybrid course, and one of the things we're going to be doing in the course are discussion boards so that you can interact with other students, sharing with them how you are reading parables, helping them understand a little bit more about how they are approaching these parables, engaging with the book that is assigned. There are 2 semester exams here, or I guess we could say 2 term exams, since this is just half of a semester. There are also reading quizzes to make sure that you're staying on top of the reading that is assigned in Levine's work. So in terms of some of the things that you'll be doing as well, I am going to be asking students to do a paper interview, a parable interview paper. I'll explain about that in just a few minutes. And there is going to be as well what I call an annotated parable bibliography. You're not going to be doing a research paper in this course, but I am asking students to become familiar with scholarly research on parables and demonstrate that knowledge or that awareness by providing an annotated bibliography. I'll explain that too in just a second. And in terms of application, you'll also be doing a parable class lesson. So you'll be imagining preparing a curriculum or a lesson, a one class lesson on one of the parables of Jesus. And there is also a final exam. So those are some of the requirements in the course. You'll see as well the grading scale, and you'll be able to find all the how I keep up with grades in Grade Center in Blackboard. In about 3 weeks after you've done some of the work, you'll see something of a grade for the class. So I'll make sure you'll see how well you are doing. You are required to have access to a computer since you'll be listening to videos, lectures each week, and since you'll be participating in the discussion boards and you'll be taking online quizzes and online exams, and you'll be uploading your assignments online, so you do need to have a computer, and there is an assumption that you'll know how to do all that with Blackboard. So as I mentioned, attendance and participation is required. I truly value when students ask questions in class, because that, for me, demonstrates a student is processing information and trying to learn. You are going to be getting into a discussion board every week, and you're going to be making contribution. I'll put up prompts that I'll be expecting you to respond to, and then you are going to need to make substantive responses to 2 other students. And so there is a rubric for that substantive response, how I judge a discussion board contribution as substantive or not. So you'll want to look at that rubric to make sure that your posts are substantive, not only in reply to my prompts, but also in reply to other students. There's a policy here about online etiquette, and so I do expect that you will respond to one another in ways that are consistent with the Christian values of love, graciousness, kindness, respect. So I will not tolerate people who use language that are inflammatory or insulting or aggressive. So there'll be reading quizzes, several reading quizzes, again covering the reading in Levine. And the exams, as I said, these exams primarily are multiple choice. There might be a few short essay questions on the exams. If for some reason you can't take the exams when they become available, you need to let me know, and there needs to be a good reason why you are not able to take the exam at the time that they are scheduled. I do know that sometimes there are students who are involved in OC-sponsored events, which might conflict with the time period when exams become available. And if that is the case, you'll just need to let me know what is happening. So the interview paper is going to be where you will take one of Jesus's narrative parables. So there's a distinction between parables that are kind of cryptic sayings and parables that basically tell like a story. And you're going to take one of those more story-like parables, and you're going to interview a preacher or an elder or someone who is seen as a person well-versed in Scripture. So for those of you who may not have grown up in a church environment, you might want to reach out to one of the other Bible professors here at OC. But contacting someone who supposedly has familiarity with the parables, someone who teaches parables or preaches about parables, you'll need to contact one of them, and you're going to interview that person about what they think the parable is about, what lessons that they think that parable teaches. You're going to report about that interview, and you're going to compare and contrast what it is they say that parable is about with what Levine argues about the parable. So Then you put all that together in a paper, and you'll show how it's being interpreted by all these, and then your own conclusion. So having weighed up what this preacher or this elder or this Bible expert says, what Levine says, and then you provide your own interpretation. So this paper is going to be due. There's some things that has to be double spaced, and you're going to upload it in Blackboard in a Turnitin site, and that's going to be due by 4 p.m. on March the 25th. And so that's worth 10%. Now, an annotated bibliography. So you're going to find 12 academically respected books. So we'll need to have a conversation about how to know if something is an academically respected book. But you're going to find 12 of them. And an annotated bibliography then provides not only the bibliographical data, that is, who the publisher is, author, the name of the book, the publisher, the date of publication, but also a brief description of the major theses of this book. So usually you can find a thesis, or you can find a short description on the back cover of a book or in the introduction of a book. Sometimes online you will find people who do reviews of books, and they can help you determine what the major contribution, the major ideas of this book are, how they are reading the parables. So there are 12 of those, so just 12 brief descriptions. Descriptions are usually about 2 to 3 sentences each. So that gives you an idea of how many sentences for each book. And so that is great. That bibliography is going to be due at 4 p.m. on April the 8th. The other writing assignment is this parable class lesson. And so you're going to here demonstrate your ability to understand a parable and how you might teach that parable in some kind of class setting. For some, it may be thinking about at a Sunday school class, or you might think about how you would organize it for some kind of talk. But primarily what I'm going to look for in this lesson plan, and so basically I see it as maybe 1 full page, maybe 2 pages, but you're going to see, you're going to describe what you think Jesus intended to teach by it, what his lesson was, what you think the gospel author, where that parable is found, so if it's found in Matthew, Mark, or Luke, how that author might also be intending. So sometimes a gospel author might have a different message than what Jesus' message was. And so in class, we're going to talk about the distinction between what Jesus would have been teaching and what the gospel authors might have been teaching. Then also what message you think the parable can have today, since the audience of Jesus is different than the audience of the gospel author, and the gospel audience is different than your audience today. So when our audiences are different, our lessons sometimes can be different. What it is we want to convey, what we want to encourage or advocate. So the lesson plan has to include a lesson thesis statement. So basically one short description of the overall major idea of the parable or what you want to get across. Your lesson objectives, so different things that you hope that the student or the people who are hearing this lesson will learn. A time allotment for each major section, how much time you're going to spend on talking about each different idea. So usually I'm expecting a lesson to be somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes. So how are you going to break up that 30 to 45 minutes? How much time is going to be spent on each major lesson idea? Any fact-finding questions that you might ask of the students. So if you're going to ask them things that you think that they ought to know or that they might know or to inquire about their knowledge, you have to have that. Any open-ended questions, in other words, questions that are very subjective, There are no right or wrong answer. You're just trying to find out what it is the student themselves might know. If you're going to have an assignment for the student, something that you want them to do, if they understand the lesson, is there some kind of behavior, is there some kind of activity that you would want to try and encourage them towards applying the lesson in their lives. And if there are any kind of teacher instructions. In other words, if you were writing this lesson and you wanted to hand it to someone in order to teach the lesson, what instructions would you give to that teacher about how to teach this lesson? So if you have instructions for them, in other words, how to engage the class, how to help students be prepared, getting any kind of materials. So the lesson plan should be detailed enough so that it could be given, as I said, to another person to teach without any additional instructions. You could just hand it to them, they could take it, they could go off. And if you want an illustration of detailed lesson plans, I suggest here you might want to go to that ebiblestudy.org, where a number of OC professors have written Bible lesson plans, and you could get kind of a guide for that. I've actually done some on parables there, so if you want to see some things that I've done on parables and e-Bible study, you can go to that site. So this lesson plan is due by April 15th, again by 4 p.m. Also in the syllabus are some just general course policies about how quickly you can expect. Usually I'll try to grade things within a 2-week period. I do accept late work, but I take off 5% for each day that a work is late after 4 p.m., usually the deadline. I don't count Saturdays and Sundays, so if you're not getting it in by the Friday, well, you have 2 extra days then. I do expect laptop etiquette while you are in the class, that you are not using your laptop to distract other students while you're in the classroom. You use it for taking notes. I do expect email etiquette, and so if you're going to contact me by email, I do expect that you would, let me know what class that you are in. I have a number of students in a number of different classes, so identifying yourself in which class you're in. And I'll try to respond usually within a 24-hour period. It may be longer if you're emailing me over the weekend. If you are not writing an email that is written respectfully or discourteously or unclearly, I may not even respond to it. So do take the time to make sure that your emails are written in a way that is clear, communicates clearly, and that it is appropriate, and that you took time to construct an email professionally. You're not going to email me any of these paper assignments. So the lesson plans, the annotated bibliography, all those are going to be uploaded into Blackboard. They're not to be emailed to me. You shouldn't have your cell phones on, off of silence in class. So please make sure that they are on silence if they are on. Anyway, I also request that earphones be removed during class. So don't come into class and have earplugs, earphones on during class time. If you do have a disability that requires some additional time for taking quizzes or exams or some help for your writing assignments, you need to make sure that your disability is noted with our office. And so now the person who you're supposed to contact, I believe, is Kim Langford. So contact her, and I will work with her. That should say, and I'll work with Amy Jansen. I'll work with Kimberly Langford. Amy Jansen was the previous person, so I'll correct that in the syllabus. Here are just policies on academic honesty. So you can't take other people's work and upload it and try to represent it as your own. If you do, you'll get a 0, and if I see it happening twice, then you'll get an F for the course. So don't do that. Well, this is a hybrid course, so we do meet on Monday. So if there is some kind of inclement weather event, an ice storm, tornado events, I'll certainly communicate to you about class, and we'll make other arrangements. The other classes, since they're online, inclement weather doesn't really is going to apply unless there's some catastrophic weather event. You do see as well that there are sources of help that are provided for you. We also have an anti-harassment discrimination policy. And if you feel like you are being harassed or discriminated, we encourage you to contact our Title IX coordinator, and there is the email and the telephone number to contact that person. We also have a counseling center if you need that, and of course for health requirements, there's a Mercy Clinic nearby the campus, and our Jeff McMillan is our spiritual life office. So if you have struggles and that, of course, you can also contact me. I'd be glad to talk with you about any particular questions about your spiritual life as you're going through this material and what it might mean about your faith in Jesus, or what you think about Jesus or think about God, questions that you might have about Christian faith. I'm certainly here to help sort you out or talk with you or discuss with you those questions. And of course, the copyright policy. Now, I'll just finish up here with a few comments about the class schedule. And you'll see a class schedule in the syllabus. So in our first week, the course introduction is basically being taken care of by this video. And so that does that. I'll start class on Mondays with why did Jesus use parables, or our general introduction to parables, and about how to go about interpreting parables, or how we're going to go about interpreting parables in this course. And I'll do a video for you on domesticating Jesus' story. This is covering the section in Levine, pages 1 through 23. It'll be during this first week that you will have a reading quiz and you'll have your first discussion boards. So I'll be communicating with you each week about when those quizzes are available and when those discussion boards are available. In the second week, we'll do the same thing. We'll meet on the Monday. I'll talk about the lost sheep, lost coin, and lost son parables, and quickly highlight a few things out of those parables. You'll have a reading quiz on that Monday, and then there'll be the Good Samaritan that will be a video, and you'll have a quiz 3 after listening to that video. And then at the end of week 2, you'll have exam 1 already. So this course is moving very fast because it is a term course, and you're keep getting the same information that you would get in a whole semester, just crammed into 8 weeks. So we need to move very quickly. Week 3 then is on the Monday, I'll be doing the parable of the kingdom of heaven is like yeast, and we'll look at Levine. And then during that week on video, I'll be doing the pearl of great price, and again with Levine. During that week, you'll just have one reading quiz, quiz 4, and the discussion board, because you'll also have your parable interview paper that is due. So you're going to need very quickly to talk to someone, contact someone, let them know you need to interview them so that you can write that 3-page paper by the 25th of March. I will just say this probably for week 3. I'm just now being reminded, since that is spring break, we are not going to meet in person since the campus is basically closed and students go home. So that week I'll be doing the Kingdom of Heaven is Like Yeast as a video. We will not be meeting in person. So that's the spring break week. I believe that is correct. Isn't that right? No? Excuse me, I have to correct that. The spring break week is week 2. And so the lost sheep, lost coin, lost son is what will be done as a video. So that's spring break week. The week 4 is the mustard seed. Again, I'll do in class with the mustard seed, and during that week, I'll be doing the video on the Pharisee and the tax collector, and then you're going to have exam 2. Then we'll go week 5. I'll be doing in class the laborers in the vineyard, and we'll be doing the video on the widow and the judge. You'll have your reading quizzes, discussion boards that week, and the annotated bibliography the end of that week. So week 6, Rich Man and Lazarus will be done in class. And during that week, we will also be catching up with anything that has been missed so far. If we need to spend time and to talk about any other issues that have been overlooked. Then you'll have your lesson plan during that week. And then the following week, when we meet in class, we'll be talking about the power of disturbing stories, and you'll have a discussion board. And so there probably will not be another video during that particular week, unless, again, I need to catch up because things haven't been looked at that was supposed to have been looked at. And then we'll have our final week, our final exam during finals week, and that exam will become available online, and you'll be able to take it at 10:10. You'll have a 2-hour framework, a 2-hour period of time in order to take it. So that gives you a rundown of the syllabus, a kind of introduction to the course. And if there's any questions that you have about the syllabus or about the requirements or about the schedules, please just let me know.